Okay, snow leopards, here we are, day 6, looking at chemical reactions. Our goal is to once again, how do we get energy from food? What does that mean exactly? We're going to examine a more pure substance than Cheetos to find this out. You're going to complete the following by the end of the period. Answers in your doodle sheet from S through V. You're going to watch Science with Scold. There's lots of episodes. And you're going to be completing your own experiment, designing an experiment to test your ideas. So first we're going to pick a fuel, a simple one, to track in order to understand how burning gives us energy. And we also want something that has the same stuff in it as our food does. So it's got to have C's, H's, and O's, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in it. That substance we're going to burn is ethanol. What is in ethanol? Write down the chemical formula in Doodle Box S. So I've given you the number of C's, H's, and O's in one molecule of ethanol. So go ahead and go to Doodle Box S and figure out what that is exactly. Put me on pause and do that. After you figure it out or think you do, that's great. Write that in your notebook. And then if you need to, you can go online and look it up for certain. But don't do that yet. Just see if you can figure it out first. Okay, now I want you to go to Google Classroom, click the link Science with Scold Video 1, and watch his video, and then you're going to come back to me. All right, now that you saw Mr. Scold do his first experiment, let's make some predictions. I want you to think about recalling the conservation of matter. What does that mean? What is the conservation of matter, right? Well, that is when matter cannot be created nor destroyed. And think about some ideas that we had from burning food. What happens when you actually burn that food? Okay? So you're going to go back to Doodle Box S, write down the reaction below. This is the formula you should have figured out or eventually looked up. What do you think the reactants and products might be? Okay? What do you think the reactants and products might be? So the reactants are those things that are reacting right, and they become the product. So what is needed for ethanol to react? Does it have to react with something? No. All right, you're going to go back and burn some ethanol again. Go to Science with Scold, watch video 2 on Google Classroom, and see what he's got there, and then come back to me. All right, so I want you to pay close attention. We're trying to figure out, how does matter transformation give us energy? Okay, how does matter transformation give us energy? We're going to do this in 2 parts. First, we got to track that matter. So what's the matter you're going to be tracking? Well, the C's, the H's, and the O's. And then the second, we're going to be tracking the energy. Okay, so we're tracking the matter, and then we're going to be tracking the energy. And then we're going to put it all together to develop one full understanding of how it works. You're going to record your ideas about matter before, during, and after this reaction in Doodle Box S. So make sure that as you're watching the reactions that take place, you're recording everything there. Okay? And look for any kind of evidence. You'll be putting that in Doodle Box S2 that supports or refutes your predictions. All right, so in thinking about this reaction, discuss your predictions and your observations. Which of your predicted inputs and outputs are most likely? Okay? So what idea about matter is key in our thinking about the reaction? I want you to think about what inputs or outputs you're most confident about. So we know we've got ethanol as an input. We've got something else in there too, right? And then something happens to it and it transforms. How does that matter get rearranged? Think about the components that make ethanol up. What is ethanol made of? That might give us a hint of what might be on the other side. Remember, you can't create brand new matter. You can just rearrange it. So looking at that, what do you want to test for and why? Talk about it in your group. Okay, Once you've discussed it in your group, again, what tests do you want to run? How are you going to do it? Once you figure it out, let me know. However, because I care so much, if you need help, go to Science with Scold, video 3. If that is helpful, but you want more ideas, go to Science with Scold, video 4. The link is on Google Classroom. Okay, so you can go ahead and watch those for hints. Do try and figure something out, but it's okay. This is hard. Good for the brain, but it's hard. So go to Science with Scold and check out his hintful videos. Okay, now come back to me and figure out your tests. Sorry about that. Come back to me, figure out your tests, and then you're gonna come back to this in about a half hour. So once you've got your whole plan, we're gonna run some tests. Okay, now you should have run all of your tests and tried to balance that equation. So we see that in burning ethanol, just like in our bodies, the reactants inputs are different than the products, which are the outputs, right? But they're also similar. How are they similar? Well, they're the same composition. They're made of the same stuff, but they're just different molecules. Matter transformation involves the same atoms, which are assembled in different molecular configurations. All right, in Doodle T, you're going to record your final equation, your group equation for the chemical reaction for burning ethanol. So it should be fully balanced. We should have that figured out. I can help you figure it out as needed, but you're going to record that in there for Doodle T, balanced equation. All right, and then let's pause for a second to look at some vocabulary around the molecular rearrangement. So we've been observing substances that are burning. So what does it mean to burn? To know that, we need to know some of these vocab words. What's a chemical reaction? What are reactants? What are products? So write down the vocab that we've discussed in Doodle Box. Actually, you're going to put the vocab in Doodle Box U, and then in V, you're going to use those terms to answer the questions in Doodle Box V, to be just fully describing your observations of energy before, during, and after the reaction, and where it comes from. Use those words, chemical reaction, reactants, and products, to fully describe Doodle Box V. You can put me on pause and do that now. Okay, taking stock. This is your last slide here. We've gotten a bit more clear about how molecules are transformed involving a particular chemical reaction called burning, but we still haven't figured out the energy. So let's do that now, okay? So let's figure out that energy. We still have our big question. How do we get energy from food? How do we get energy from food? So we haven't really done that yet, but we will do that. And that's your last day. That is tomorrow.